If you sell an asset, be it stocks, be it a piece of property, a second piece of property that you own, for example, and you make more than $250,000 in profits, as an individual, the amount of money that you're taxed on will go to 2/3 from half if the budget passes. But if you're a corporation or a trust, it doesn't matter what that threshold is, no matter what that inclusion rate is going to change for you. And that's where the concern from doctors, as voiced today, comes into play, because so many of them, of course, have incorporated themselves. To get more perspective on that, I'm joined now by Dr. Kathleen Ross. She's the president of the Canadian Medical Association. Hi, Dr. Ross. Good to see you. Thank you for making the time.
Pleasure to be here, Bess. Thanks.
So you heard the Prime Minister there. He's pretty unequivocal about the reason why they brought this in. They view it as a question of fairness, taking a little bit more from the quote unquote wealthy and making sure younger generations kind of get their fair share. How do you respond to that?
Well, I would certainly say that doesn't feel very fair to me as a family physician working in Canada. I definitely don't consider myself an ultra wealthy person, but as I look across the country, at the professional corporations that were set up, and it varies from province to province, but 15 to 20 years ago, we were encouraged to set up professional corporations as a saving vehicle for our retirement and to run our practices in lieu of increased fees at the time. So here we are now, 15 to 20 years down the line, being told that those legitimate business practices, those established savings vehicles, are going to be taxed at a much higher rate without that threshold afforded to individuals.
Is that at the heart of the concern from doctors, essentially, that so many of them did, as you mentioned years ago, take the advice and incorporate, and now they'll be subject to the changes regardless of the threshold as it applies to individuals?
So I think that's part of the challenge. The other part is how do we recruit people to come in and set up practices? How to recruit new graduates and new to Canada physicians to come and set up in a way that meets the needs of Canadians. So for myself, I always try to relate to people that my income into the corporation doesn't equal wealth. Out of that income that comes in, I provide the infrastructure of my office, I provide staff, the computer equipment, supplies that I need to run my office. And that's infrastructure that we're providing to support the healthcare system across Canada. And this is a new tax changes that are a huge disincentive for us to bring in new recruits. And of course, it is completely unfair, late in the game taxation for those physicians who did follow the rules of the day and save for their retirement inside of our professional corporations.
Can you tell us a little bit about what you're hearing from those physicians? I'm imagining particularly toward the end of their career versus the beginning, where they can make different investment decisions based on the new rules. If you have saved for your retirement in that way and you're nearing retirement, my guess is their options are fairly limited.
The options are fairly limited to try and recoup what we would be losing in these capital gains losses. But I've spoken to a number of physicians today. I'm at a conference on quality improvement where physicians largely off the side of their desk are working hard to innovate and streamline and improve Canadian healthcare. And then being faced with this on top of our already morally defeated and beleaguered physician workforce coming out of the pandemic. This is really, it feels a little bit like a beatdown, I guess. We're really quite upset about this process. If you were to bring in a new physician to practice that wasn't incorporated or that was choosing to incorporate to run their business, there's going to be different implications, of course. But those that are mid-career or later in career that have actually followed the instructions to invest and save inside of your corporation, this has got a significant impact. And I've been speaking to physicians all day saying, well, there's really not much incentive for me to continue to work in the way that I'm working. Maybe I'm going to close down my corporation. Maybe I'm going to close down my medical practice altogether and go and do something else. And I've been shocked to hear that by so many of my colleagues, that there are lots of options. Physicians are well-educated, intelligent people, and we can go and do something else.
I imagine you're in the process of making that argument to the federal government. Have there been any discussions that have taken place? I also recall a number of years ago when there were different tax changes that were going to impact doctors and a lot of other small business owners. And the outcry was so loud that the government actually walked much of that back. Do you have any signs that there could be some fluidity to the way in which this does end up going forward?
Well, I think it's certainly our hope that we'll have a meeting with Minister Freeland to be able to speak to the challenges that we face as corporations or incorporated physicians we're unique, and I think that we need to be treated that way. We are not entitled to the small business exemption that's been added in because we operate as a professional corporation and not a true small business in the way most of our investments are organized. So we have to have those conversations. We've reached out. I'm still waiting to hear back about a meeting and an opportunity to discuss options.
And just finally, Dr. Ross, I know you said off the top, you don't necessarily view yourself as wealthy. I think that Canadians would hear what the Prime Minister says and sort of view doctors as pretty wealthy. I'm not saying that there's a merit entirely to that, but certainly compared to a lot of people who are struggling. How would you qualify sort of the actual impact of what these changes will mean for doctors, especially in a way addressing Canadians who might feel like, hey, they are really well off compared to me. Maybe if they did pay a bit more, that does sound fair.
So people should know that physicians already do pay high taxes at the outset. We already do. What's not fair in this particular process is that we've been encouraged to use this method to save for our retirement in much the same way that you might if you were contributing to a defined benefit pension plan in your employer. And now, late in the game, we're being told that there's going to be this significant change in impact. And my colleagues have done some math, and it looks like it's roughly 8% of those retirement savings are going to be captured in the new tax. That's a substantial hit for physicians.
Okay, Dr. Ross, I'll leave it there. I appreciate you making the time this evening. Thank you.
My pleasure. Thank you. Bye.